So is it live? Hello? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. My name is Arun. I would like to welcome you all today on Voice of Men 360. Before we start the process, I would like to introduce what is Voice of Men 360. Voice of Men 360 is a non-profit organization founded in 2020, and it has been in Toronto, Canada, and it's a part of International Men's Day. IMD has been serving more than 20 years, nearly 90 countries around the world, joined together and doing various activities regularly. IMD follows 6 pillars. I would like to emphasize all the 6 pillars first. Pillar number 1, to promote positive male roles model, and not just movie stars and sportsmen, but everyday working class men who are living decent and honest lives. Pillar number 2, to celebrate men's positive contribution to the society, community, family, marriage, childcare, and environment. Pillar number 3 is to focus on men's health and well-being, social, emotional, and physical and spiritual. Pillar number 4 is to highlight discrimination against men in area of social services, social activity, and expectations and law. Pillar number 5 is to promote gender-related and promoted gender equality. And pillar number 6 is to create a safe and better world where people can be safe and grow to reach their full potential. It's all over well-being of boys and men. Today, we are going to interview a doctor. He's a doctor, and Dr. Vinod Kumar. I would like to inform him about what Dr. Kumar does. Dr. Vinod Kumar is experienced clinical psychologist with demonstration history of working in the mental health care industry, currently pursuing PhD in psychology from Green American University, Cyprus. Dr. Vinod Kumar is presently a head of clinical and psychological department, Institute for Counseling and Psychotherapy, Maldives. He is interested focusing on stress and anxiety in the area of adult mental health and learning. He authored a book, Child Mental Health, and growing and working on another one more book. I would like to welcome Dr. Vinod Kumar now.
Thank you, Arun, for the wonderful introduction. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure's mine.
So we would like to welcome you all. Thank you very much for coming to Voice of Men 360. And I would like to see the presentations. If we can start the presentation right now.
Sure, let's get into it. Share screen. Okay, is it visible, Arun?
We can see.
Okay, fine. So today we'll be focusing on the topic, the emotional butterfly effect. Now, why emotion? Emotion is very, very important as it helps us to understand communicate and connect with the world around us. But then, interestingly, some people are more emotional than others, and some people can read emotions better than others. So, it's very important to understand what happens when we are emotional. We have this basic instinct. Survival is our basic instinct, isn't it? So, when we were in forests, our ancestors were hunters and gatherers, our survival was constantly questioned, and we had to keep facing these challenges through adaptive mechanisms, adaptation, we call it. Now, the problem with adaptation is it's a complex process. So, each and every moment we have to respond to the threat, the need in a different way. That is where the emotions comes in. Emotion is like a set of all these responses packed into one whole. Let's say, for example, we are walking in a jungle and there is an animal in front of us. Now, we would have two options. Either you can fight with it or you can run away from it. Now, depending on the threat and our ability, the response would be decided. If it is a simple threat, you can fight with it. So, when you have to fight, you need to have a lot of energy, especially in using your hands. When you decide to run away from it, what happens is you need to have a lot of energy in your legs. So, based on this, our brain quickly evaluates the situation and then decides the emotional response. Now, if it finds the threat to be a bit hard to manage, then we feel a bit anxious. That's where the fear comes in. So, when we are anxious, the energy we need is more towards the legs. So, the blood flow in our body is directed to the legs. Hands become very cold, and we have all these physiological and responses. Your lips become dry because all the energy is now directed towards the legs. If we decide to fight with it, then what we need is we need a bit of anger and rage. So the energy and the blood flow is directed towards the hand. That's why when we are very angry, we can feel this. The hands become a bit shaky, right? And automatically we clench our fist. This is the basic purpose of the emotion. It helps us in the survival process. Now, another major function which emotions does is it expresses others about the situation. Now, language is something which has developed very recently in the process of evolution. So, before language was developed, people would look at the other individual and then, based on his emotional expressions, they would respond accordingly. Now, um, let's say, for example, some basic emotions like fear, happiness, anger, this would be very easily like you can read these emotions by looking at the face. But some other emotions like jealous, when you feel jealous, these sort of emotions you can't read very evidently from the face. This is because the core emotions are more associated with the survival. The more an emotion is associated with a survival, then it would be very evident. Now, second major factor which makes us feel a bit more emotional is attention and the relevance. For an individual to become emotional, first thing is he has to attend to the stimulus. So, based on what is happening around him and the way he attends to it, he would start to respond. Second thing is when it is very relevant to him, the way he responds depends. Now, when a stimulus is not very relevant to the individual and he attends to it, he wouldn't have any sort of emotional expression and emotional change with him. They'll just move on because it's not related with him and it has nothing to do with the individual. So attention and relevance plays a major role in the emotional life of the individuals. Now, basically, we can categorize the functions of emotions to three areas. First thing is it motivates the actions. Now, motivating action is nothing but it helps us to respond to a stimulus. For example, when we have an exam, we get a bit anxious about it, and this anxiety makes us to prepare well for the exam. This anxiety which you have towards the interview makes you to perform, prepare very well, and it helps you in the performance. And second thing is communication. As we saw, this is one of the major functions of the emotions. Now, when you are emotional, you convey what is happening around you to the individuals who are with us. One simple example we can have for this is when baby when a baby cries, it's like a chain reaction. When one child starts to cry, the other kids immediately starts to cry continuously. This we can see in the nurseries. This is a common issue faced by the caretakers and then the teachers in the nursery setting. This one possible explanation which the scientists and psychologists give for this behavior is when a child cries, it could be due to a possible threat, and then the other kids also gets affected by this sense of threat and then they start to cry. Now even with adults we can see this pattern. When someone gets a bit anxious, suddenly the other people can sense a bit of uneasiness and then they would be a bit more curious about it and then they would ask like, oh, why are you tensed about it, what's happening around. Till you find the answer, the uneasiness would continue. Same happens when someone is very happy. When someone is very happy and laughing, naturally the people around him would feel a bit comfortable, would feel a bit relaxed. Because when you are happy, it is giving a message that there is nothing to be worried of and the environment is secure. So communication is another major function. Third major thing is self-validation. Self-validation is nothing but the feedback which we give to ourselves. Now, when we do something that is very good for us, you have a feel-good factor. Now, this feel-good factor will make you to do the same thing over and over and over again. Now, you do something that's not very good for you. What would happen is, in the future, we would see to that we avoid the situation. Let's take going to a party, for example. When we are in a party and accidentally we spill a drink, we look very bad in front of others. So, this bad feeling will be associated with that. Now, next time when you go to the party, because of the emotion which you had last time, you will be more careful about the same thing and you will see to that you avoid repeating the same mistake. So, motivation, communication, and then self validation. These are the key functions of the emotions. Now, next comes the butterfly effect. What is butterfly effect? It is very, very important to understand the butterfly effect in a proper way. To put it in simple terms, when a butterfly flaps its wings, this has the ability to influence a major event that would happen in a different part of the world at a different time. People usually confuse this with the flapping of the wings causes something, and usually it's related with a tornado or a cyclone. No, the butterfly flapping does not cause it, but it has the ability to influence a tornado or a cyclone. Now, in this, the key factor is the process of change and development is unpredictable because there are various factors involved in it. So, something which starts as a very simple, trivial thing in the beginning, as it progresses in the future, it gets modified because of various factors involved in it, and then it comes out as something very big. Now, the initial condition is very, very important. The sensitivity depends on the initial condition. So, the more influence rests with the way it gets triggered. Could be anything. A simple incident, when it is intense, would lead to a very big event in the future. So, the initial dependency is the key factor here. When the initial condition is very good, even in spite of having various factors associated with it, the results would be more likely a positive result. And prediction about the result is possible with high precision of initial factors. You need to have accurate data and details about the initial conditions to predict the outcome of anything. Now, the problem with this is that in any initial condition, uh, considering all the factors is possible only when it computers to the area of computer science. In other areas, it's highly not possible to take each and every factor into consideration. So this is a biggest challenge when it comes to the application of butterfly effect. Now, this is applied, initially this was applied only in mathematics and physics, but now this is applied in various other fields as well. Now, what we will be doing is we will look into some of the challenges in emotional regulation and then the application part of the butterfly effect in regulating the emotions. Now, what is emotional regulation? We saw what is emotion and what it does. Regulating emotion is an attempt to have a beneficial emotion. Now, there are positive emotions and there are like negative emotions. When I'm very happy, when I'm surprised, it's a positive emotion. Now, when I'm feeling dull about something, when I am scared about something, so this is all a negative emotion. Now, what happens is when I have a positive emotion, I won't have any difficulty in functioning. Whereas when it is a negative emotion, since the emotion is directly related with my survival, all other functioning would be stopped and I would be focusing more towards the negative emotion. So, regulating the emotion is very, very important. When it comes to emotional regulation, there are four steps in it, we could say, to consider. First thing is we should be aware of the emotion, what sort of emotion we have. And then we have to accept the emotion. Only after you know the emotion and only after you accept it, you will be able to work on the impulsivity part and then make it go towards a specific goal. Now, the challenge here is it is not always one emotion, it's always a mix of all the emotions. At any given point of time, there will be a mix of more than one emotion. So, someone would be scared and they would be worried at the same time. Same, when you have a feeling of surprise, you will also be having a feeling of happiness. You'll be excited, elated about what is happening. So, Only when you are aware of it, then we can work on it. Especially when it comes to the negative emotions, what happens is, since it's to do with survival, we would immediately act on it, and impulsivity is quite normal. Only when we are able to overcome this impulsivity, we can work on it in a proper way. Another common problem is when it comes to emotions, we have wrong emotion, and then the intensity of the emotion is again wrong. So, say like you are walking in the dark and you happen to see a rope in front of you, you get scared immediately because you assume that it could be a snake. So, this assumption has triggered the fear in us. Now, later, when you realize that's not a snake, then we assume maybe I reacted to it in the wrong way. Same happens when it comes to the intensity. One of a friend teases you for fun and calls you a lazy person, and then we would lose it. We would start shouting at the friend, and then we start to uh, react to it. There is a very big difference between responding to something and reacting to something. When we react, it's a bit more intense. Now, the problem is only after completing it and feeling low, we start to realize the fact. Now, what leads to this impulsivity? There are two major areas which could contribute. We can categorize the factors into two. The basic is the biological factors, as you know. When it comes to biological factors, the emotional area is mostly controlled by the midbrain, and the thinking, planning, everything, we call it the executive functions. Now, this executive function is controlled, and the forebrain is responsible for these actions, frontal lobe. So, thinking, planning, problem solving, and executing things. Normally, when we happen to see something or when you get to hear something, the impulse is processed through the frontal lobe. So we think about it, and then based on the judgment, we would start to act on it. When you think it is an appropriate way to respond to it, then we act. But when it comes to emotions, since it's directly related with the survival, what happens is the moment we get emotional, it takes a shortcut, it takes a bypass from the thinking process, and then it directly starts to give the command. So, when does thinking get back? Only when your emotional charge goes low, you start to think about it. And then later we will realize, okay, maybe it was a wrong emotion, or then the intensity again, it was a wrong intensity. There was no need to be so tensed about it, or so scared about it. So the emotional charge is very, very important, and depending on the emotional charge, the emotional areas of the brain takes control, and then it bypasses the thinking area. Second thing is the psychological factors. Now, when it comes to psychological factors, the way we respond to something, it depends on how early we had a similar experience or the same sort of experience in our life. If something has happened at a very early age of your life, you will have more emotional charge towards it. Let's take the same thing for example. Say the friend calls you lazy, and then you become very emotional about it. Now, this individual, uh, during his childhood days, when his parents or his friends or his relatives call him as lazy, and if this keeps happening repeatedly, he will be very sensitive to the specific word. And at a later point of life, in spite of knowing that this doesn't define him, this has nothing to do with his identity, still the sensitivity would be there. So even when a friend teases him and calls him lazy for fun, he will get very emotional, because this again is related with very early time of his life. So the more earlier it was, the intensity would be very high, because during the early years we don't think about what is happening around us, and we don't process it in a proper way. Now, the abstract thinking ideally starts developing after 11 years of age. Till then, when something is said, kids will more likely take the exact meaning of it. So, this early years are very, very important in life. And then comes the intensity of the experience. Now, how bad it was, how much it influenced you, when the impact it had on the individual as a child was very high, it is more likely that he would have the sensitivity even after he grows up. And then comes the frequency. If something is repeated over and over again during the early years, they will have a high amount of sensitivity. Now, some incidents could have happened only once, but because of high amount of intensity, the emotional charge would be high. Others, the intensity would be very less, but then it was happening continuously for a longer duration of time. It was happening frequently with him. Even in this case, the emotional charge would be high. This is an important deciding factor when it comes to emotional sensitivity. When the incident that is occurring is very similar to the early memory, then it triggers the same emotional response. So, based on these four factors, we will be able to work on the emotional regulation part. These are the key areas to focus when it comes to emotional regulation. So, what we have to do is, when something happens, we have to work on these basic areas. We can call it like the themes. Is it related with my early memory, and why is it I am responding to it in such a way? Once we filter with these gates, then we'll be able to have a better hold on the regulation part. Now, the application of butterfly effect in the area of emotions. As we know, in case of the butterfly effect, the initial conditions are very, very important. Now, in case of emotions, we saw all these challenges which one has to face. So, what is the likelihood that we would be able to analyze it, accept it, and work on the impulsivity when the emotional charge is very high? It's very minimal, because the thinking process is not at its performance. So, what we have to do is, we have to make sure the initial conditions are very good. The more the conditions are perfect, we'll be able to handle things in a better way. Now, two factors: having a good clarity and having a goal. Now, on an everyday life, when you start doing things, if you have a very good idea, a clear idea about what you are doing and what is your goal, how this action which you do today is helping you to achieve your goal, when this is perfect, it will give you satisfaction and happiness. This feeling of satisfaction is very, very important to have a good life. The quality of life is decided by the amount of satisfaction and the happiness an individual has. Let's take a simple example. By the end of the day, when we go to the bed and you think about the day, if you are satisfied about the day, your life would be better. 7 happy days, it's a happy week. 4 weeks, it's a happy month. 12 happy months, it's a happy year. And it goes on. Same again, the butterfly effect. From a little level, it goes to a very big level. So, having a clarity about what you are doing and setting a goal is very, very important. Now, when you have a very good idea and when you have a proper goal in your life, all your actions would be motivated towards it. And when something happens in between, this random effect happens, we will know where to focus and we will know what to avoid, because we have two factors, right? Attention and then the relevance. When we attend to it, we should relate it and see whether it is helping us to achieve the goal. If it is helping you to achieve the goal, then you can take it. If it is not helping you to achieve the goal, then you just have to shift your attention, focus on proper things that would help you to achieve the goal, will be in the right direction. Next challenge is, when it comes to goal setting, mostly we focus only on one area. We focus on the career related thing. Now, we define success based on the career development, professional growth. We have three major areas in life. We have personal, social, and then comes the professional. Now, the personal area is to do with the individual and his immediate family members. Whatever happens in this circle is his personal life. And then comes the social. Social is to do with his friends, relatives, and other family members. And then comes the professional life. So, this is one of the three areas. Now, on an average, in a day, we have to spend one third of the day in sleeping, and other 8 hours you spend it in job, academics. So it's career related. How wisely we spend the remaining 8 hours decides the quality of the life. It's very, very important we plan it in such a way that it evenly addresses all the other areas. Sometimes it will be a bit difficult to go and meet with friends, to spend quality time with the family members. But what you have to do is, as a whole, when you look at it, it is very important you prioritize these and then plan your day accordingly. Now, if you are able to maintain a very good balance between these three areas, when you have a problem in one of the area, the other two area would come as a very good support factor. Yeah. For example, if there is a problem in the job, then you can get help from your family members and you can get help from your friends. If there is a problem with one of your friend, you can handle it by focusing more on the job, and then you can handle it by sharing about the issue with your family. If you have a problem with your family, again, the other two areas would come for rescue. We will be able to handle things in a better way if we maintain a proper balance in all the three areas of life. Now, fine, we know which areas to focus. And when you decide to set a goal, it's very important that you set a short term goal and a long term goal. Now, important factor is we should see to that the short term goal aligns properly with the long term goal, or it contributes something to the long term goal. It could be a part of the long term goal. Short term goal is very, very important because this would give us a constant feedback about how we are making progress, what we are doing, what is happening. And again, it gives you the feedback about the amount of progress which you are making and the pace in which you are making the progress. When you fail to set a short term goal and you are only focused on the long term goal, first difficulty we would have is the endurance. Unless you have something to keep motivating you to move forward, the level of endurance would be affected. And most likely, individuals would give up when they don't have a short term goal or they keep changing their goals. So, having a short term and long term goal is very, very important. Now, on an everyday basis, when you have a short term goal, the way you plan your day and the way you start the day is very, very important. Because remember, when it comes to application of butterfly effect, the initial condition is the key factor. So, when you start your day, plan your day in such a way that it would contribute something to the short term goal, thus helping you to achieve your long term goal. And if it's a good day, we'll be able to complete all the tasks we have planned. In case if something goes wrong and you are not able to complete the tasks as you have planned because of the random variables that has influenced it, by the time you go to bed, take these things and put it for the next day so that when you wake up in the morning you have the plan set for the next day. Based on this feedback, we'll be able to function in a effective manner. And finally, you should have a mental rehearsal. Morning, first thing when you wake up, try to plan your day and then have a mental rehearsal about how it would go. You can add the details about the timing, the way you do it, so that when you go to the task, you won't have to face other challenges. Once you have the mental rehearsal, it will have a sense of familiarity. Now, familiarity will keep you in a comfort zone. Once we are comfortable, the level of performance would be very high, and then we can have a very good start, which would make us have a continuous progress and would give us a better results. So, if we apply this simple strategy in the emotional part, we'll be able to have a better quality of life. Now, some people would say, okay, this is fine for an individual who has a very good life. What if I have a very bad past? What if I have faced a traumatic incident? Always remember this. At any given point of time, we'll have two options. You can either let your past decide your life and your future, or we can take control of the moment and then we can plan and design the future in a desirable way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vinod Kumar. That was a brief information about the emotional control. And the two things I learned from you, plus one more person who always say, if something is happening to you, don't react, just respond. So
That
mostly
makes
they
the
say,
difference.
if you are reacting, right, if you are reacting the things, then you are losing. And if you just respond to that scenario, then you can be the winner. Specifically, I like the way you're saying the control of emotional regulations. That's the word I love to hear, because mostly people say control the emotions. Controlling emotion is impossible, to be honest with you. That's not going to happen. And regulating is something that we can aware of it, and first what's happening, then we get the awareness, then we get the full control of their problem, then we reply. So I like the word that you are using, regulate the emotions. I'm going to start using that word from now onwards. I'm going to steal that word from you.
You can.
All right, perfect. And anyhow, it's already we are supposed to close this interview at 11, but we have 10 minutes extended. We would like to thank you very much for coming and presenting with us, and especially in the COVID situation, you're taking the time to present with us. And I have only one question for you. I know that you wrote a book for child mental health, and now you are planning to write another book. Can you describe something? What is the book you are exploring right now? And when
Right now, I'm working on a book about sleep. So
sleep? Okay.
yeah,
Wow.
because sleep is a very important thing. Like ideally, we spend 1/3 of our life sleeping, but then usually people take it for granted, isn't it? When, like, simple example I can give you is when you have a busy schedule and you want some extra time, you don't compromise on other areas. You just sit extra and then like you take it from the sleep time. So
Perfect.
that's one major area which we have to focus.
Perfect. We are looking forward to your book. Thank you very much. And today, again, we have a few more announcements coming up. We are doing a live talk show on every Sunday, 10 a.m. EST on Tamil, and on Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. EST. We have two different presentations coming up, and also we have a monthly webinar, special discussion on Saturday at 10:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. And also, we are looking for some volunteers. If you are in Toronto or Canada or all over the world, if you're thinking that you can contribute to Voice of Men 360, please reach us. You can reach via the Facebook, or you can visit our website by voiceofmen360.org. And we have few more sponsors going on, and also we have few more events going on. If you have more information, please visit our website or our Facebook, Voice of Men 360. Thank you very much for joining today. Thank you.